Hey guys, it's about beer 30. Let's go see what's in the fridge today. Hello everybody, welcome to Gregsbeerreviews today. Thanks a bunch for stopping by, I do appreciate it. We're continuing with our KBS series. This is the 2013 edition, coming in at 11.2%. Everything that I've had so far in this series of beers has been 11.2%. I don't know where Beer Advocate has it at 12.3%. I don't know where they're getting their information from, so they're basically useless. Like Tits on a Boar Hog, they're useless. They're out of here. They're in the shower. They're watch out for that soap. Don't bend over. As far as commercial description, it does have one listed here for this. And what we got here is an Imperial Stout brew with a massive amount of coffee. And guys, if you're going to sell these beers, the coffee is going to fade. It will not be as prominent as it is if you drink it fresh. That's the way coffee is. It's just like hops. It fades over time. So if you want those big coffee notes, drink it fresh. If you're not so much into that and you just want to sell her a nice bourbon barrel aged stout, you will probably find it very tasty even if you sell her for multiple years. It says here, massive amount of coffee and chocolates, been cave aged in oak bourbon barrels for an entire year. Long time. That's why it's a little on the pricey side, not so much as some of the others. It's a little 12-ounce bottle, so it's not like you're buying a 22-ounce or a 750 milliliter that's been barrel aged, because those beers are very pricey. Make sure the wonderful bourbon undertones come through in the finish. Makes your taste buds squeal with delight. I am a big fan of these beers, even though the founder just recently sold out, and there are reasons for that. Some of my subscribers said the guys that started Founders are in their 50s and they want to retire and all this, yada 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 yada, whatever. I don't support people that sell out. Probably won't be buying any more of the new releases, but I still will review them if they are sent to me. I support the small independent craft breweries and not the guys that sell out. They're just like Goose Island that had been purchased by ABN Bev a while back. I still review those beers when they are sent to me, but I don't spend my money on them, and I still appreciate the ones that do, and because the Bourbon County Series beers are still very tasty. There are people and subscribers that have told me they're not as good as they used to be, but I still find them very tasty. So, it is what it is. It depends on what chaps your ass and what don't chap your ass. So, with that being said, 70 IBUs on this one, pretty consistent. The ABV has been fairly consistent from what I'm seeing. Most of them so far have been 11.2% with 70 IBUs. So that's what this one is. So we've got the ABV, we've got the IBUs, and we've got the vintage of 2013 on this one. So let's find out what it's all about and see if the bourbon notes are any stronger than the last three that we've done. This was sent to me by my dear brother Rico. So thanks a bunch, Rico, for sending it to me. I didn't dig out your notes. I don't think it's that critical. Most of these beers taste pretty consistent and pretty much the same. The fresher you get it, the more bourbon notes and maybe some more coffee you're going to get to it, because those notes fade. And even in the barrel aging process, the coffee notes fade, guys. So if you're looking for a coffee tasting beer, maybe not so much a barrel aged version of that. And Sumatra coffee and some of those really strong espresso type coffees will lend more coffee notes to those beers than some of the others. So not much of a head on this one. Looks pretty good though. Very good looking stout. Not even covering the top of the beer, a little bit more around the outside lacing here, but through the nose we go. Nice bourbon notes, very reminiscent of what the last three have been. Rich roasted malt, maybe a little black molasses, slight hint of some bittersweet chocolate. Might be a very faint, super faint hint of some coffee in there, but you really have to look for it. Like I said, during the barrel aging process, when these beers are kept in the barrel for a whole year, a lot of those coffee notes subside a little bit. And if you're not used to drinking big beers, coffee beers, imperial stouts, bourbon barrel aged stouts, the coffee taste might be more prominent than they are to me. There are better coffee beers. There are better bourbon barrel aged beers. But to get the most of everything, you probably would want to drink it fresh to get the big bourbon notes and the big coffee notes. But barrel aging tends to subside some of the coffee notes if it's been brewed within the coffee. Just my opinion and my experience, guys. So, and some of you young guys are fresh into barrel aging or coffee beers or imperial stouts or bourbon barrel aged stouts. Stuff that I find a little lackadaisical in some of those aromas and tastes. I have other people tell me, oh, it's off the chain for me, and that all depends on where your palate is. If you've not had anything like that, and like I did a bourbon barrel beer, and people tell me, oh, I can taste the bourbon, it's super. Maybe you're drinking too much bourbon. I don't drink bourbon. I don't drink liquor anymore. I don't. I haven't for a long time, guys. So I do enjoy a bourbon barrel beer, and I get my bourbon from those beers if I want to taste that. But I don't drink bourbon. I don't drink liquor anymore, guys. Beer is all I can do, and I only have a couple of them a day. So I don't drink liquor. You know, if you think I'm drinking too much alcohol or too much bourbon, you're wrong, because I don't drink it. I don't drink it. Just don't. I don't drink liquor, period, anymore. There was a time I drank all kind of different whiskeys and bourbons, and then went to lighter colored stuff because it made me very mean and aggressive. I was a mean drunk, and I didn't like that, and so I went to tequila and vodka and some of those other clear liquors, and that worked a little bit better for me. I didn't seem to be a mean drunk anymore, but I don't even do that anymore. So I gave up liquor altogether, period. So I'm allowed to have a couple of beers a day, and this is where I get the bourbon taste, and I really enjoy that because I like the taste of that. I like the taste of a very well-made bourbon barrel beer. So, enough flapping of the gums. Let's get it to the lips. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Rico. Thank you, my brother. I do appreciate it, sir. Ah, very tasty. Nice bourbon notes. Very pleasant. Alcohol is fairly well hidden for an 11.2%, as much as it can be. But if you're expecting the alcohol taste of a 5% or less, it may be a little boozy to you. But to me, it's not. I've had a lot stronger, bigger ABV beers, but I've had a lot, I don't say a lot, but I've had tastier bourbon barrel beers that are super off the chain with the bourbon. Well, this seems to be blended and mellowed to a evenly consistency between the bourbon and the malt, and not overpowering everything else with the bourbon. So, very well made beer. And again, this is a year fresher than the one we did yesterday, being a 2012, and this is a 2013. I think the bourbon notes are a little stronger, a wee bit stronger. Very tasty, very pleasant. But it's a year fresher. And like I said yesterday, and probably the day before, the fresher the beer is coming out of the bourbon barrels, the more bourbon notes you're going to get. And maybe if I've done it with coffee, you might get a little bit more of those notes. To me, the coffee is there. It's very subtle. The bourbon notes are there. They're not quite as subtle as they were on the 2010, being the 2013 edition. I think it's a wee bit tastier if you want those big bourbon notes and those big coffee notes, drink it fresh. You might get a little more booziness from that, but you're going to get more of those notes. So, let me sip on this one. It's right out of the fridge, and we'll come back and give it a grade. Yeah! Alright guys, I'm back. I've sipped on it for a while now. A little bit of lacing left on the glass, not a whole lot. Very tasty beer. If you can get your hands on the KBS, it's worth picking up because it's not superly overpriced like a lot of the bourbon barrel beers are. But it has very limited distribution in this area. Not so much in other areas, and I've said that before on previous KBS reviews. You have to get your name on a list or be there when it shows up, the day it shows up, because they sell it out pretty quick because it's such a limited distribution. I want to say distribution because when it shows up here, you have to know somebody or have a name on a list or be there the day that it shows up. Then you can get your hands on one, maybe two of these. And not so much other places. Closer to the brewery, the stuff sits on the shelf a lot of times, so that's what I'm hearing anyway. This is a very tasty beer. It sells very well, but you lose some of those coffee notes and some of the bourbon barrel notes cellaring it, especially for a long period of time. But it is very, very tasty. I enjoy the CBS and the KBS series beers from Founders Brewing. And like I said, they recently sold out, and I don't support the people that do that. I understand why a lot of breweries do that, because of big money talks and everything else walks. So if you can get your hands on a KBS, you ought to pick it up and give it a try. And if you like this style of beer, bourbon barrel aged dark imperial stout, you're probably going to like this. It is a very tasty beer. I enjoy it. To me, guys, the fresher it is, the more bourbon notes you're going to get, maybe a little more coffee notes you're going to get than one that you cellar for a while, like I have done this. So, let's do the final chug on this one. Awesome aroma. I am getting the bourbon barrel notes on this. Seems to be a little more prominent on each one, but I get fresher and fresher in the stage of the beers. So, very tasty. Final chug. That is very, very pleasant beer. That is a very tasty beer. The bourbon notes are there. I'm going to give this another, like I did yesterday's beer, 99 out of 100. If you say, oh my God, that's a 100 beer, I wouldn't argue with that, guys. Depending on where your palate is and what you're used to drinking and what you like to drink, I could just as easily give this a 100. But I don't like standing in line or jumping through hoops or getting my name on a list or happening to be somewhere at a specific time just to get my hands on one or two of them around here. So that is the downfall to this beer around here. Other places probably not so much, but here it is a cult following and it's very limited distribution, and you can only get your hands on one or two of them, even if you have your name on the list. Even if you review beers like I do, I've not been able to get a whole 4-pack of these beers recently. So with that being said, Rico, thanks again, my brother. I do appreciate you sending me all the wonderful beers you do. You are awesome, sir. This beer is very tasty. 99 out of 100 to me, guys. That's where I'm going to put it. I've had better bourbon notes on a beer than this one. But it is super tasty. You need to try this beer if you can get your hands on it. Pick it up, give it a try. Don't base what you're going to buy or what you're going to spend your money on by what this guy says. Give it a try. You know, you may think it's the best thing you've ever tasted, and I wouldn't argue with that one bit. So try it. Get your hands on some of it. We're not even going over to Bear Island because they don't have the right ABV on this beer. So they're in the showers with the soap and hard to tell them what they're doing in there with that. Untapped has it at 4.6. Pretty awesome numbers from those guys there too, guys. It is an A beer, no doubt about it. An A plus to a lot of people. 10 years ago, this was definitely be an A plus beer to me. but I've had some that are a little bit more heavier in the bourbon barrel notes, and I like that. I enjoy that because I don't drink bourbon anymore. I do not drink liquor, period, anymore. So being limited to a couple of beers a day, I get my bourbon notes from these imperial stouts that are bourbon barrel aged. So, with that being said, if you've had the 2013 edition of KBS, Kentucky Breakfast Stout from Founders Brewing, let me know what you think. Until we meet again, let's go see what's in the fridge.